Greetings everyone, I hope you're fine, I hope you are doing well, and I will appreciate if you can just smash that subscribe button, that like button, like never before. I just want to play you a short clip that I wish you can just listen to attentively because this information is very valuable.
Chance, which is particularly the most pivotal one in the issues that are being faced in infrastructure development is crime. Number one, crime by government officials who pressurize and interfere in professional departments like procurement with intent to give their fellow comrades tenders in exchange for kickbacks. Number two, crime by professional staff who have created networks with suppliers in issuing and distributing tenders. The corruption is professionalized, and I think the Deputy Minister even says this about that. It's professionalized and even seeps through investigative measures when red flags are being raised, and the system is clearly fundamentally fallible. Number three, crime by tenderpreneurs who use money to bully their way through being granted tenders. Number four, crime by tenderpreneurs who sabotage infrastructure efforts and infrastructure development, terrorize professional staff in government, coercing them to issue tenders to their companies and threatening death, and in some cases go all the way in inflicting violence on government personnel. Number five, crime by politician tenderpreneurs who infiltrate politicians as politicians go up the ladder and infiltrate in government in pursuit of leadership positions and government titles for the purpose of influencing tender outcomes. Crime by politicians and tenderpreneurs that inflate prices when they intend to rob the public purse. This is why it's primarily criminal to win internal political power in an organization by using money from the private sector like we saw in 2017. The pledged loyalty goes to the industry bosses and not the people of South Africa. There has to be a real commitment to fighting the sophistication of crime in public infrastructure in South Africa. And the only way to do this, ministers and deputy minister, is by building state capacity and moving away from outsourcing primary functions of a department to tenderpreneurs and outsourcing, and you would have halved half of the crisis that's imminent in these departments. When you build state capacity, it isn't a threat to the private sector, as private sector is not threatened by government existing.
Don't make a speech.
It's not a speech.
Please try and round up, my dear.
But when crime, the fact that we're not addressing it with the adequate attention it deserves, and how it is a threat in all these departments, we primarily should be dealing with the issue of crime. And the only way to do that adequately is to do insourcing and build state capacity. And the ministers are not going into detail on how they plan about going this. That is what I'm trying to raise.
I know sometimes it might be boring to many people to listen to the members of parliament whenever they speak, but I just want to encourage you to start familiarizing yourself with this language, because if you don't do so, sometimes you'll always ask yourself questions and always be unable to answer those questions. So there's something that she spoke about a professionalized crime in government, especially when it comes to tenderpreneurs or tenders, government employees and politicians working hand in hand with tenderpreneurs at the expense of the state. So this information is very important, it's very valuable. So it's important for people of South Africa to start familiarizing themselves with political language, community language, social languages, and many other things, in order for you to understand where South Africa is going. Because by doing so, it's going to be easy for you to hold these people accountable. I just want to talk about this professional crime for a moment, because it's costing the people of South Africa. Then as a result, you end up not seeing service delivery being done in your community or being done in your in your society, because we have these tenderpreneurs. And when it comes to tenderpreneurs, you have to understand that the focus is on money. The focus is not, they want these tenders not to deliver services to the community, but they want these tenders so that they can get money. For an example, whenever they bid for these tenders, they already know what are they looking for. They already know what material are they going to use, because they want to sell themselves. They know about the cars that they want to buy, the houses they want to buy, the luxurious life that they want to live. So that's their focus. But they use a community or what is happening in your society, poor infrastructure, as a gateway. In other words, they're like, we are community companies, or we are a company from this area, and we can solve the issues. So they start applying for these tenders. But you have to understand that whenever you apply for these tenders, it's just like applying for a job, because these days in South Africa, when you apply for a job, especially a serious position in a company, it can be in the private sector or in a public sector, then you have to know that in most cases there's someone who's already appointed for that particular position, who's already selected for that particular position. So interviews and all these other things is just a waste of time. So same applies to the tenders. Whenever you apply, because there are people who have started businesses, in other words, wholeheartedly, they want to deliver, they want to solve problems in their society, they want to hire people, and so forth and so forth. But here is the problem. We have many people who are applying for these tenders, or few people who are applying for these tenders because they want to serve themselves. So as a result, whenever they bid, their application is accompanied by money. Their application is accompanied by bribe. In other words, you have to bribe someone who is inside, because there are people who are going to do selection. There are people who are going to do selection. So those people should be bribed. So it means if you are bribing these people, then it means the primary focus is money. That is why many of these people, their focus is on money and nothing else. Even though they might say we're going to hire people, that is why most of these tenderpreneurs don't have permanent staff. The reason they don't have a permanent staff is because the moment they get that contract, their priority is to use cheap material, cheap resources. Then they try by all means to complete that contract as soon as possible, as if they are fast. Why? Because they want to get the whole money or the entire money so that they can go and live a luxurious life, so that they can go and live like an expensive life at the expense of who? At the expense of the society, at the expense of the community, at the expense of the people. So that is why everything they do in the society doesn't last. Whenever they fix roads, potholes, patching potholes, those potholes maybe in 2 months or 3 months will be there again. This is the problem. This is the problem. So whenever you don't do according to what they want, they also threaten to disappear you. They also threaten to delete you. This is a problem. This is a problem. So now we have a lot of corruption in these government departments. Why we have this corruption is because we don't have a good leadership. As a result, people are suffering. You ask yourself, why there's no service delivery? Why our community is in this way? Why there are no investors? There's no investor who can invest in the community that doesn't have water, a problem of electricity, where the majority of people are unemployed. No one can invest in the area where there's no good infrastructure. But whenever the government issues these tenders, these people, in most cases, they don't even complete the job. At least maybe we can talk about those who complete the job using maybe poor material and etc. But in many cases, there are those who don't even complete the job at all, and there's nothing you can do. You cannot take them to court. You cannot do anything at all, because in the community, no one is holding these people accountable. Councillors, mayors, and all these people are not holding these people accountable, because some of them are also involved in these things. Municipal workers, government workers in various departments are involved in all these things. So as a result, you as a community, you end up suffering. You ask yourself why these things are not happening. You ask yourself why these things are not happening until you are familiar, until you familiarize yourself with poverty, poor infrastructure, until you don't care. And that's what they want. They want you to stop caring, because once you stop caring, that's when you'll see a serious deterioration of infrastructure in your city. And again, there are people now who they issue tenders, but at the end of the day, they don't deliver. But on record, they will record as if they've completed that service or they've done that service, when in reality, they didn't do anything at all. Just imagine issuing a contract and then you go and report that that contract or that work has been done, when in reality, nothing has been done. So this is the corruption that we are talking about. It affects the people. That is why you are not working. That is why we don't have permanent workers. So whenever these tenderpreneurs would hire people, they would do so maybe for 6 months or maybe for a year, 2 years, or maybe 3 years. Then after that, we are back to square one. That's the problem. So you have to ask yourself all these things. So whenever maybe you vote for your councillor, whenever you vote for a political party, whenever you vote for all these people, you have to consider all these things. You must have this information. That is why I'm encouraging all of you to start familiarizing yourself with these things, so that you can at least have a bit of understanding of how your municipality operates, a bit of understanding of how these government departments operate. In these government departments, there's a lot of corruption. That is why Naledi here calls it a professional crime.